Hello again, welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart, and today I'm going to be speaking with Michael McGeary about a memoir called Married to the Man Who Washed Himself Away. Now, Michael did not write this book. It was written by somebody called Joan Leech. Michael edited the book, and we're going to talk to him today about what it is that he does for people that are looking to write memoirs, to have their books edited, memoirs edited. Let's go speak to Michael and find out more. And if you feel like it, please subscribe to my channel. It absolutely helps me, and it helps all those people that I've interviewed too. All right, thank you. So, hi, Michael. Welcome to the Memoir channel.
Hi, Nikki. Great to be here. I've never done anything like this before, and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. All right. Well, I hope it's not too terrifying.
It's a bit terrifying, but it's my favourite subject to talk about. So it saves my wife having to listen to me all night tonight. I can just tell your viewers instead.
Okay, fabulous. So, so let's talk a little bit about the book first. It's Married to the Man Who Washed Himself Away.
Yes.
And your part in this book was?
So a lady called Julie McGowan came to see me about a book that her late mother had written that she wanted to be published. And Julie was a retired police officer, and she was suffering from cancer when she came to see me and was actually quite ill. But it was her dream really to get her mother's book. Her mother desperately wanted to be published, and then she'd taken on this dream from her mother. And we sat, she told me about the subject, and I came up with that title in that first meeting we had. Kind of regretted it sometimes because it's a bit too long, but it also really does sum up the book, and there's something attention grabbing about it. So it was about 2 years working together with Julie before we got to the point of publication. And by that point, Julie was really ill, and she called me to her house to meet her daughter. And I just remember Julie smiling all through the meeting because she knew it was finally going to happen, and this lifetime's ambition was going to go through. But she also knew she didn't have long left herself, and she didn't. I didn't see her again after that. But she at least she died knowing that her mother's wishes had been taken care of.
Wow. So it passed down from mother to daughter to granddaughter. Is that?
Yes. So now it's the granddaughter who I speak to about the book. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so she told me about this remarkable man her father had been, not remarkable in a very good way. He suffered from OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, which is a mental illness, and obviously we always have sympathy with somebody who suffers from something like that, but he made other people's lives very difficult because of that. So yes.
Right. And there was they didn't have that diagnosis back then. So there was no medication, no help.
No, and Kenny wouldn't go to the doctors anyway. So she didn't know what was wrong with him, as people would have done now, but she knew there was something seriously wrong with him, but she couldn't persuade him to go to the doctors. In fact, one time she got the doctor to come to the house, and as the doctor came in the front door, Kenny ran out the back door and over the fence into next door's garden and went off. Yeah.
Well, he was probably a bit scared because he probably knew deep down there was something going on, and he was probably a bit scared of what that might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
How much of the book was already written when the daughter brought it to you?
Her daughter had written more passages to it from things that she remembered, because it was only an incomplete version, and her daughter wanted to speak to other family members and get other information that to add to it, and then we edited it from there on. So it's just always a long process. I always say to people when they talk to me about writing a memoir or any kind of book, or particularly a memoir probably, and they expect to see it ready in 6 months, and it just doesn't work like that. It takes a lot longer.
Yeah, it does. It takes a while. I mean, most people I interview ask, how long did it take you? And it's usually between 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I would tell somebody.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw that the book has actually done really well, which is amazing that you put it out after they both passed away. And regardless of that, this book has done really well.
It has. It's sold thousands all over the world. And if you look at the reviews, you'll see people in America and various places who it's a very much a book about the Teesside area that I come from, and that Julie and Joni came from as well. And so it's so kind of steeped in the language and the places and the time of Teesside. And it sometimes surprises me that people so far away can still get it, even though it is so much a different world from the one that they'll have been used to. But yeah, it's sold thousands throughout the world. Amazon and other ebook platforms are a great way to get your books out there. The sadness for me is that I can't get into local bookshops, even though it's sold so many. I can get into small independent bookshops, but the larger chains such as Waterstones and WH Smith's send me to their head office and they give me forms to fill in, and it just seems sad to me that I can't have these books in the town where they came from, so that people here can see the story.
So are you the one that's doing the promoting and the marketing? Is that your job?
Yes. So I'm a journalist by training, and I started. I'd worked for a newspaper and then for a football club, and then children came along relatively late in my life, and I wanted to have more time with them. So I invented a job as a ghostwriter, and I thought if I can find the right people, I can help them write the life stories, and that would be a great thing to do. And so that was, sorry, what was the question?
No, but carry on, because I like this. So I know you started something called the Memoir Man.
The Memoir Man, yes.
Now, does that still exist?
It does, yes. And so, yes, you're asking who does. So I take care of all the marketing and the cover design and all those sort of things, and report back to the author and let them know how things are doing. And sometimes we do it as a division of the royalties, and other times they pay me a fee and I give them all the royalties. But I'm just working with someone at the moment who's a recovering alcoholic, and she's written her own book. And it's always much, even though I'm a ghostwriter, you can't beat somebody writing it for themselves. And it might need a little bit of editing and a little bit of work on it after that. But there's something about the authenticity of that voice that I've got to admit quietly, a ghostwriter really can't recreate. They can do so much, but they cannot just do what somebody writing their own story would do. Whether or not they're a skilled writer, it just has that authenticity of their voice.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm just dealing with somebody at the moment about the cover for their book. We've had a cover designed, and she's come back with some changes. But I'll do all so I'll liaise with the author all the time, but I'll do that part of it for them as well, the marketing.
Okay, so I'm glad you remembered the question, because I didn't. So good on you.
I've gone off such a tangent, completely forgot.
No, but this is amazing to me. So not only are you doing the editing, you're helping with the cover designs, and then are you actually uploading it into Amazon and making the ebook format?
I am. I use software myself to do the formatting now. Atticus, which is great, easy, relatively cheap software. And 10 years of doing it, I've learned about the uploading to Amazon and that kind of thing, and it can be pretty daunting for somebody to do those things themselves. It's not impossible by any means, and it's I've worked with people who they couldn't afford to hire me to do the job for them, so I just advise them on an informal basis and tell them you can do the thing yourself, you can do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know it can be quite tricky, especially if you have pictures in it, and if you're trying to get the cover to, and you have to put your ISBN code on it, and
Yeah, a lot of trial and error. So I've gone. You spend hours and lose sleepless nights because you can't work out why it won't accept the cover that you've done. And so, but I don't do the covers myself. I work with cover designers. It's one of the things I've learned is to work with specialists and not to try to do everything yourself.
okay, but it sounds like you're kind of a full service.
Yeah, whatever people want, and I'll just be honest with them and tell them my expertise is in the writing and the editing, but I've learned a lot about the other things as I've gone along, and I'm very happy to take that on if they want me to do it.
Okay, so if people want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
I've got a website that needs to be updated very, very much, but it's thememoirman.co.uk, or you could just email me, thememoirman@gmail.com. And
thememoirman@gmail.com. Okay.
yeah, always love to hear from people. And as I say, half the time it ends up not being a project for me, or that would be in the author's interest for me to do it. But I still love to work with them and just tell them what I can, and take them to show them down the paths and avoid some of the pitfalls that I fall into along the way, and just help it make it easier for them.
Yeah. So how many memoirs do you think you've managed to actually put out there now, more or less, just a rough
Know
idea?
this. I really should know this. It must be getting on for about 15.
Okay.
Two surgeons. I'm just doing a second book with one of the surgeons, retired army colonel, quite a few businessmen, a folk singer, and then ordinary people like Joni as well. Yeah.
And are most of them happy to just self-publish? They're not looking to get a publishing deal?
Well, I'm always very honest with people. I've never managed to get a publishing deal for myself or for anybody else. And it's a world that I've kind of stayed away from now. And so one of the things I do when I first meet somebody is kind of to try to manage their expectations and explain to them the limits of what I can do. And if they want their book to be published and to be a bestseller in the traditional sense, it's probably not going to happen. Just the law of averages, or whatever it is, mathematics is so much against them, with so many people competing. Yeah. Especially if then a writer by nature, if they're not famous and they're not an incredibly talented writer who's kept their light under a bushel thus far, the chances are that traditional publishing route isn't going to be for them. And I just tell people that straight away.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's quite difficult to even earn money out of writing a book, even if it does fairly well.
It is. And I'll be honest with you, Joni's book hasn't made money yet, even having sold all those copies. Oh. So a lot of what I do is it's people who just want it for their friends and families. But I think the only book that's made a profit was one I did with a folk singer, Vin Garbutt, who's from this area. And sadly, he died just before I just finished the first draft, having done interviews with him over a long time. And like a lot of my clients, often they're quite elderly, and quite a few of them sadly have died. But we did continue to go on to publish it, and his wife and family ran his website, and they had lots of people on a mailing list. And so that sold hundreds of copies without me having to pay a lot of money to publicize it, which is the problem with Married to the Man Who Washed Himself Away, that to get it under the noses of Amazon readers, you've often got to pay Amazon it's a double whammy. They get a percentage of the sales, but if they also take money for you to advertise on their platform.
I saw that it won an award, or was nominated for an award?
It was nominated for the shortlisted for the Selfies Award for memoirs. That was quite early on, and I entered a couple of competitions, because you have to pay for all of these things, and there's thousands of them out there. But I didn't enter any more after that, because I decided that probably wasn't the best use of the money that I had. But it was a great experience. The Selfies was a good one, and it was the final was part of the London Book Show. So I went down to the London Book Show, which was a great experience for me. And then we had the shortlist and the unveiling of the winners, and unfortunately didn't top the list that year. But it was a great experience to do that.
So I mean, entering it into contests, and that is not something you usually do for your books, for your memoirs.
It isn't, because, to be honest, I think most of them are money-making schemes. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I'm not saying that they don't do a good job, because I'm sure some of them do, but they make the money from people paying to there's even a website where
I'm with you on that. I agree. I think they're the ones that do the best out of that. Yes.
Yes. But then again, if you do get them, they're nice. Yeah. But I follow a few of the gurus of the self-publishing world, and some of the better ones that I really admire, their advice is that it won't really add to your sales. The chances are that it'll be nice to have, but an award probably unless it's the Booker Prize, it's not going to add to your sales.
Who is one of your self-publishing gurus?
David Goffran. I think I've got his surname pronounced right. He's an Irishman with a huge beard who lives in Portugal, and he's excellent. Well worth joining his mailing list.
Okay, wait. Say his surname again. Gothram.
Gaughran.
Okay.
I think it's Goffran.
Gothram, David Gothram. All right. And
He's really good.
I was just going to say I'm in Portugal too, so
All
I
right.
might have to look him up. Be like, hey.
He's very direct and to the point, and tells you what he thinks works and what he thinks doesn't work. And he's very.
I mean, that's so helpful. It's so helpful.
It's brilliant. Yeah, and I bought a couple of his books, but he gives one book away for free, and most of his advice is free. So
I like him already. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I know I asked you if you might be willing to read a little bit from Married to the Man Who Washed Himself Away. And it is an intriguing title. It's just the man who washed himself away. It's like, oh,
yeah.
doesn't
And I
sound
think
good.
I should have just called it The Man Who Washed Himself Away with hindsight. It's just a bit long and too much on the cover, but it is a good one at the same time.
It is.
So I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs. I haven't got Joni's voice, obviously, so it should really be a woman with a Teesside accent reading this.
Oh, wait, before you start, can I ask you, because I don't know what Teesside is, can you just explain what is Teesside?
The Teesside is the area around the town of Middlesbrough in the northeast of England. It's in between York and Newcastle. They're the two places people have heard of, unless they're football supporters, because we've got a fairly decent football team. So it's a very industrial, quite a new area. It's only about 150 years old from they discovered iron ore in the hills here, and it became the centre of the steel industry. And Sydney Harbour Bridge was made with steel from here and designers from here. So
okay. Yeah. Are you? Is that a Geordie?
No.
No.
No, we fall out here, Nikki.
That would be bad. I get slapped for that.
Well, we often get mixed up with Geordies, and we're very defensive about that. So we're Smoggies is the nickname for people here because of the smog from the industry.
Okay. All right. So Teesside. Now we know what it is. All right. I'm going to put you on a speaker view. So it's just going to be you. Okay. So whenever you're ready, we'll.
An email has just flicked up from David Goffran. Would you believe his emails just come in to my inbox?
It's the universe.
It was ironic that we didn't even have a proper bathroom until we moved to Grangetown, but the clean, modern facilities in the new house seemed to make Kenny's problems worse instead of better. To start with, it only took him half an hour to wash himself thoroughly, and I didn't think much of it. But the length of time he stayed in the bath began to creep up over the months, stretching to an hour and more. I remember breaking down in tears because I couldn't keep up with the bars of Palmolive soap he was going through, and he wouldn't give me any money for more. So I had to forego my own toiletries just to be able to afford soap to wash the kids with. Thank God we had a separate toilet besides the bathroom, otherwise I don't know what we would have done. One day I popped up to use the loo and heard a strange rhythmic counting coming from next door. When I peeked into the bathroom to see what it was, I was greeted by the strangest sight. Kenny was sitting in the bath with just his two eyes peering out and the rest of him covered in soapy lather. He resembled a melting snowman. He continued counting out loud as he methodically scrubbed each limb of his body. I couldn't take in what I was seeing, but that was just the start of it.
Oh dear. Oh, my heart goes out to her. Yeah, that's.
She had such a tough life. She really did, but she had a lovely family, and that was all that really mattered to her.
Were there five children?
5 children, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And don't want to give anything away, but it's not all sadness and bad news in the story.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, I mean, I read some of the reviews and they said it, they were, at least sounded like a happy ending. So I'm like, good. That she found a place where she was doing better.
She did.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, what is one of your favorite memoirs?
Oh, it's a difficult question because if any of my clients see this, they might say, well, why didn't you say me?
Sorry.
I genuinely love most of them. There's been a couple that have been more difficult than others to work with, but I tend to form very strong friendships and relationships with the people I work with. And again, I feel sorry for my wife sometimes because I get very absorbed in the story and just want to talk about it all the time. So Vin Garbett, the folk singer, that was a great one because I was a big fan of his, and to be able to publish it after his death and be able to tell his story, which would have been forgotten otherwise, was probably the achievement that I'm most proud of in the time that I've been doing this. But then I've got a book here, The Hollywood Fitter, and it's just about an ordinary Middlesbrough man who was a fitter in industry, and then he became a salesman and did quite well out of it and told his own story. And he's just a lovely man who I loved working with and loved being able to tell his story. So there's the ones that are sort of professionally very rewarding, and the ones where I just it's the privilege of working with some great people.
Now, is the Hollywood Fitter, is he in Hollywood?
No, there is a Hollywood connection. Well, I'm not going to go into that, but he was nicknamed the Hollywood Fitter just because he was a bit flash. And so one of the guys at work nicknamed him the Hollywood Fitter, and it stuck.
Okay.
It was just a line that he gave me in the interview that I immediately thought, that's our title. And another one I loved was retired. He was a 95-year-old London man, and his family contacted me and said that they would love to get his story down. So I went down just before the pandemic, like days before the pandemic closed everything down, and spent a couple of days interviewing him. And he was blind in one eye, and he sat there in his vest and his shorts in his house, and he was just a wonderful character to talk to. Great to interview as well, because he just 95, but he just spilled out this story with run-ins with the Cray twins and picking up the Beatles in his taxi and all this fantastic story. And again, sadly, he died a couple of years after we did the story, but we got it down. And one of the inspirations for doing this was that my grandmother was always full of fascinating family stories. She'd had an amazing. She was orphaned and then widowed at 22, and brought up in absolute poverty. And she had these wonderful stories of the Northeast from the 1920s through till now. And we always said somebody should write them down, and nobody ever did. And that my kind of regret at that was part of the inspiration for saying, well, I missed that, but I've got other people's stories that I could tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Because everyone has stories.
Yeah, it is. It is. And some people are better at telling them than others. But if you can just spend that bit of time with them, you can sometimes draw things out that people didn't know that remembered.
And then, so you actually go and you interview people, and are you recording it somehow?
Yeah. So if I'm going to be doing it that way, I'll just take a recorder, get chatting, tell them to forget that's there and just talk to me and just tell my story. Don't tell their story, and don't sort of worry about editing it verbally as they go along. Just tell me as much as they can. So that's the main way I've done it. But as I say, other times people have written it and I've just edited it for them.
I mean, if you're doing it, you're recording and you're actually speaking to them, do you go back several times, or are you capturing it all in one go? I mean, there must be.
No, I usually go back. When I first started out doing it, I used to do very short memoirs, but it doesn't really work like that. So, and now where people aren't looking for something, a full scale book, it's probably better for them to do it and me to edit it. So yeah, I'll go back 5, maybe even 10 or more times, just as much as it takes. And then sometimes the editing. I'm working with a fantastic gentleman who started off Saks Hairdressers, which started off in the Northeast, and then it was one of the early franchises, and the franchises now all over the world. And we've been working together on it for about 5 years, and he's just given me it back again with lots more additions and amendments and corrections on it, and I'm just working my way through it, and then we'll meet up again. But he's a lovely man, so I'll always look forward to meeting him anyway. We'll always have a good chat together.
So can you work on several projects at once, or does that get too tricky for you?
I think when the big one comes up, when I get a big celebrity memoir to do one day, hopefully, I'll probably have to I'll get the chance to focus on just one. But I've just been away for a holiday, and I've come back, and I do some other public relations work. So I've come back to a pile of the ordinary work, and then I'm working with 4 different authors at this time, and understandably, they all want their book to be done as soon as possible. So I'm juggling a few different projects. There are different kinds of projects, ones that I'm just editing, and ones that I'm writing, and ones that are at an early stage and at a later stage. Right. So I think at least 4 or 5 I'm working on at the moment.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I think it's really amazing that you do, like you're a one-stop shop, whatever it's called. I mean, I feel like people come to you and you can make it happen. You can do everything for them, and that's quite remarkable.
Technologies have been a game changer, and I couldn't possibly keep up with 4 or 5 different books at one time, except for some of the technology that I rely on. That's things like Atticus and other programs that really help.
Yeah, no, it's amazing though, because I think of how most people have to go through just different, like you're saying, these technical things, and there's no one you can ever phone and just go, "Oh, I'm so stuck. Please, will you help me?" And so that's lovely to know that you're there, because you will actually do that for your clients. You'll get them through that next bit, because it's a lot.
It is, and I'm stuck on a few things myself at this very moment. Things like a mailing list. I really want to get a mailing list going, and I've got several sort of strands of them. For example, the surgeons that I've done. Some people just want to be kept in touch about that. But I'm so busy with other things, I never have a chance to work on or get somebody to work on my website and get that sorted out. So the few technological frustrations, as well as the opportunities it gives you.
But is anyone helping you, or is it just you?
It's just me and freelancers that I use. I use a fantastic designer, not just for. Sometimes she does the covers for me, but she helps with the more complex layouts where I've done a couple where songs are involved or lots of images. So whereas I can do the layout for a straightforward book, I'll turn to Sarah and know that she'll do a fantastic job for me if something more complex is needed.
All right, well, this is fantastic. I'm gonna put your website underneath this interview, and I'll put your email address. And if there's anything else you can think of that you'd want me to post, links of any kind.
That would be great. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to talk to you, and so nice to get through this, because it's a bit nerve-wracking when you haven't done it before. And I've got a bit of a cold, and technology let me down at the start, and I had to reboot the computer, but we got there in the end. It was lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, no, well done. I think you seem very relaxed and easy, so don't worry about a thing. But thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thanks, Nikki.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.